The ultimatum arrives. The day everything changed. Colonel Marcus Webb stood at the observation deck of Earth's primary orbital defense station, watching the morning sun paint the planet's surface in golden hues. It was supposed to be a routine Tuesday, filled with standard patrol reports and maintenance schedules. Instead, it became the day that would define humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The first sign of trouble came through the communications array at precisely 0800 hours. Chief Communications Officer Janet Torres rushed into the command center, her face pale with disbelief. "Colonel, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies simultaneously. It's not human." Webb's coffee mug froze halfway to his lips. In his 23 years of military service, he'd never heard those words spoken with such gravity. "Put it through to the main screen," he ordered, his voice steady despite the sudden knot in his stomach. The Nexary announcement. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a figure that would haunt humanity's nightmares for months to come. Ambassador Kethvar of the Nexary Empire stood 8 feet tall, his crystalline blue skin reflecting the harsh lighting of his ship's bridge. Forearms moved with mechanical precision as he adjusted what appeared to be a translation device. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet," his voice boomed through the speakers, each word carefully enunciated despite the alien accent. "I am Ambassador Kethvar, speaking on behalf of the glorious Nexary Empire. Your world has been selected for immediate integration into our galactic dominion." Webb felt his blood run cold. Around the command center, officers stopped their tasks to stare at the screen. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone present. This wasn't a movie or a simulation. This was real. The terms of surrender. Kethvar continued his announcement with the casual indifference of someone ordering lunch. "Your species has shown remarkable potential for industrial productivity and resource extraction. However, your current governmental systems are inefficient and require immediate restructuring under Nexary oversight." The alien secondary arms gestured toward what appeared to be a holographic document. "The terms of your surrender are non-negotiable. All military forces will be disbanded within 48 standard hours. Your leaders will report to designated processing centers for reassignment to labor colonies. Resistance will be met with complete planetary sterilization." Webb's hands clenched into fists. The audacity of these creatures, speaking about human civilization like they were discussing livestock management, ignited a fury he hadn't felt since his early days in combat. Humanity's defiance. "Your compliance is expected, not requested," Kethvar added, his 4 eyes focusing directly on the camera as if he could see through the screen into the hearts of every human watching. "We have observed your species for several rotations. Your technology is primitive, your weapons ineffective against our shields, and your unity questionable at best." The ambassador's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "To demonstrate our superiority, we have positioned a single destroyer-class vessel above your largest population center. It contains sufficient firepower to eliminate 10 million of your kind in under 60 seconds. Webb's tactical display immediately lit up with confirmation. A massive alien ship, easily 3 times the size of their largest battleship, hung motionless over New York City like a sword of Damocles. "The countdown begins. You have 48 hours to broadcast your unconditional surrender on all planetary communication networks," Kethvar declared. "Failure to comply will result in demonstration strikes against your major population centers, followed by complete subjugation." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the command center in stunned silence. For a moment, nobody moved. The weight of what they just witnessed seemed to press down on everyone like a physical force. Webb was the first to break the silence. "Torres, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Priority Alpha clearance." He turned to his staff, seeing a mixture of fear and determination in their eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen, we just received our first alien contact. And they want to make us slaves. The human spirit awakens." As alarms began blaring throughout the station, Webb felt something stirring in his chest. It wasn't fear, though that was certainly present. It wasn't despair, despite the overwhelming odds. It was something uniquely human, something that had driven his species to survive ice ages, world wars, and countless other challenges. It was defiance. "Sir," Torres called out, "Earth Command is requesting immediate briefing on the situation." Webb straightened his uniform and walked toward the communication station. "Tell them we need to convene the Global Defense Council immediately." "And Torres?" "Yes, sir. Make sure they understand that humanity has never been very good at following orders from uninvited guests." As the colonel prepared to relay the most important message in human history, he couldn't shake the feeling that these Nexari had made a critical error in their assessment. They'd studied human technology and military capabilities, but they'd failed to understand the one thing that made humanity truly dangerous. When threatened, humans didn't just fight back. They got creative. The human response. Deep underground. 3 hours after the Nexari ultimatum, Dr. Benjamin Cross stood in the bowels of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, staring at equations that would have made Einstein weep with joy. The underground facility buzzed with an energy that had nothing to do with the emergency lighting casting eerie shadows on the walls. "Benjamin, tell me you have something," General Harrison Blake's voice cut through the controlled chaos of the quantum research lab. The general's usually perfect uniform was wrinkled, his tie loosened, clear signs of the stress they were all under. Cross looked up from his holographic display, his eyes bloodshot from hours of non-stop calculation. "I have something, Harrison. I'm just not sure if it's genius or madness." "The discovery." The physicist gestured to the swirling mathematical models floating in the air before him. When the Nexari transmitted their ultimatum, they didn't just send a message. They sent a quantum signature. Every piece of their technology operates on quantum entanglement principles that we've been studying for decades. Blake stepped closer, his military mind trying to grasp the implications. "In layman's terms, Doctor." "They're connected," Cross said, his voice gaining excitement. "Every ship, every weapon, every piece of their technology is quantum entangled with their central command network. It's how they maintain instantaneous communication across vast distances." The general's eyes narrowed. "And that helps us how?" Cross smiled for the first time in hours. "Because quantum entanglement works both ways. If we can tap into their network, we can potentially turn their own technology against them." "The impossible plan." "You're talking about hacking an alien computer system," Blake said slowly. "A system we know nothing about, using technology we barely understand." "Not hacking," Cross corrected, pulling up a new set of calculations. "Quantum hijacking. We don't need to understand their software. We need to understand their hardware, and at the quantum level, all matter follows the same rules." The physicist's fingers danced across his control interface, bringing up a three-dimensional model of quantum particles. "Every atom in their ships is entangled with their command structure. If we can create a quantum resonance cascade, we can essentially make their own technology think it's receiving commands from their home fleet." Blake felt a headache coming on. "Are you telling me we can take control of their ships?" "Better than that," Cross said, his eyes gleaming. "We can make their ships think they're under attack by their own empire. Their defensive systems will activate against their own fleet." The technical challenge. Dr. Rachel Morrison, Cross's lead assistant, approached with a tablet full of concerning data. "Benjamin, I've run the calculations 3 times. The power requirements alone would drain our entire global energy grid. And that's assuming we can build the quantum resonance array in under 40 hours. Cross nodded grimly. "I know. That's why we're going to need every nuclear reactor, every fusion plant, and every solar array on the planet working in perfect synchronization." General Blake's secure communication device chimed. "Sir, this is Colonel Webb from the orbital station. We've got movement from the Nexari vessel. They're launching what appear to be reconnaissance drones." "How long until they reach the surface?" Blake asked. 18 hours, sir. They're taking their time, probably scanning for our defensive capabilities. The race against time. Cross turned to his team of scientists, who had been working without sleep since the crisis began. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 18 hours to build something that theoretically shouldn't exist, using principles that we're still learning about. Dr. Morrison raised her hand. What if it doesn't work? What if we trigger their defensive systems and they decide to skip the demonstration and go straight to planetary bombardment? The room fell silent. It was the question everyone had been thinking but nobody wanted to ask. Cross looked at each face in turn. Then we'll die as free humans instead of living as slaves. But I don't think that's going to happen. The human network. Why not? Blake asked. Because they made the same mistake every conqueror in human history has made, Cross replied, bringing up a display of the Nexary fleet positions. They assumed that technology equals victory. They studied our weapons, our ships, our communication systems. But they didn't study us. The physicist pointed to a map showing research facilities, universities, and laboratories across the globe. In the last 3 hours, I've been in contact with quantum physicists in Tokyo, particle accelerator teams in Geneva, and fusion researchers in Mumbai. The entire global scientific community is working on this problem. Blake's eyes widened. You're building a planetary quantum array. Exactly. They think they're facing a single planet's military. What they're actually facing is the combined intellectual power of 8 billion humans who really don't like being told what to do. The preparation. Cross pulled up a new schematic showing quantum field generators positioned at key points around the globe. We're going to turn Earth itself into a quantum weapon. Every major city, every research facility, every place with sufficient power infrastructure becomes a node in our network. And when they send their reconnaissance drones down to scan our defenses? Blake asked. Cross's smile turned predatory. They're going to find exactly what we want them to find. A bunch of primitive humans running around in panic, trying to mount a conventional defense against impossible odds. Dr. Morrison looked up from her calculations. The quantum resonance cascade will need to be triggered at the exact moment their main fleet moves into attack position. Too early, and they'll detect the anomaly. Too late, and they'll destroy our generators before we can complete the sequence. The final gambit. How do we know when they'll attack? Blake asked. Cross brought up the alien transmission recording, highlighting specific quantum signatures. Because they told us. Hidden in their ultimatum transmission was a quantum timestamp. They're not just giving us 48 hours to surrender. They're giving themselves 48 hours to position their main fleet for maximum psychological impact. The general felt a chill run down his spine. You're saying they planned this entire scenario? Right down to the last detail. They want humanity to spend 2 days in terror, watching their friends and family prepare for slavery or death. It's psychological warfare at its finest. Cross's expression hardened. But they made one crucial error. They assumed we'd spend those 48 hours in despair. Instead, we're going to spend them preparing the greatest surprise in galactic history. The network activates. Across the globe, the most brilliant minds in human history worked with desperate efficiency. In Beijing, quantum computers calculated resonance frequencies. In London, particle accelerators were modified to generate exotic matter. In Sao Paulo, fusion reactors were recalibrated to channel pure energy across continental distances. As the hours ticked by, an invisible web of quantum connections began forming across Earth's surface. The Nexary reconnaissance drones detected military movements, panic in major cities, and desperate attempts to mount conventional defenses. They saw exactly what the humans wanted them to see. Dr. Cross stood in the command center, watching status reports stream in from around the world. In 36 hours, they would either save humanity or die trying. Benjamin, General Blake said quietly, I hope you're right about this. Cross looked at the countdown timer on his display. So do I, Harrison. So do I. The trap is set. The asteroid belt gambit. Captain Riley Morgan drifted through the cold vacuum of space, her modified EVA suit's stealth coating making her nearly invisible against the star-filled backdrop. The abandoned mining station Omega-7 floated before her like a metallic ghost, its solar panels dark and its communication arrays silent. Phoenix Base, this is Ghost Leader, she whispered into her comm unit. I'm approaching the target zone. No sign of Nexary surveillance yet. Copy that, Ghost Leader, came the reply from Engineer Lucas Park, who was coordinating the operation from his makeshift command center inside the station. Remember, we need this to look like a desperate last stand, not a carefully planned trap. The deception. 3 days had passed since the Nexary ultimatum, and their reconnaissance drones had returned with exactly the intelligence humanity wanted them to have. Earth appeared to be in chaos, with military forces scrambling to mount a hopeless defense while civilians fled in terror. What the aliens didn't know was that every panicked evacuation was actually positioning key personnel for the global quantum network. Every desperate military movement was carefully choreographed to draw their attention away from the real preparations. Morgan pulled herself through the station's airlock, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal decking. The facility had been abandoned for 6 months, but Park's team had spent the last 72 hours transforming it into the most sophisticated trap in human history. Status report, Lucas, she said, removing her helmet in the station's pressurized environment. The technical marvel. Park looked up from his holographic display, his engineer's mind still marveling at what they'd accomplished. We've integrated 17 quantum field generators into the station's power grid. From the outside, it looks like we're trying to create a shield. From the inside, it's actually a quantum entanglement amplifier. Morgan studied the schematics floating in the air. And they'll detect this how? That's the beautiful part, Park replied, his voice filled with excitement. We're not hiding it. We want them to find it. The quantum signature we're broadcasting will look like a primitive attempt to adapt their own technology. The captain raised an eyebrow. You're making us look incompetent on purpose. Exactly. The Nexary are arrogant. They expect primitive species to try copying their technology and failing miserably. When they see our failed shield generator, they'll assume we're just another backward civilization flailing around in desperation. The human psychology. Park brought up a recording of Nexary tactical communications his team had intercepted. Listen to this. They're actually laughing at us. Their fleet commander called our efforts amusing but futile. They think we're children playing with weapons we don't understand. Morgan's jaw tightened. Let them laugh. How long until the main fleet arrives? 18 hours. Our deep space sensors show a massive formation moving in from the outer system. 200 ships, including their flagship. They're not taking any chances. Good, Morgan said grimly. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. The quantum web. Across the asteroid belt, dozens of similar installations hummed with barely contained energy. Each one appeared to be a desperate attempt at defense, but together they formed a three-dimensional web of quantum entanglement that would make Einstein's head spin. Dr. Cross's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth. Ghost Leader, Phoenix Base, this is command. We've achieved 93% network synchronization. All planetary nodes are online and ready. Park's fingers flew across his control interface. Copy that, command. Asteroid installations are reading green across the board. The moment they take the bait, we'll have them. The bait. Morgan reviewed the final phase of their plan. Walk me through it one more time, Lucas. I want to make sure I understand exactly how we're going to turn their own fleet against them. Park pulled up a tactical display showing the approaching Nexary formation. When they arrive, they'll see exactly what we want them to see. Earth's failed defense network, asteroid-based weapons that clearly won't work, and a human fleet that's vastly outnumbered and outgunned. And then? Then they'll do exactly what their psychology profile suggests. They'll position their fleet for maximum intimidation, probably in a globe formation around Earth. They want humanity to see their overwhelming power before they demand surrender. Morgan nodded. That's when we trigger the quantum cascade. The moment of truth. Exactly. Every quantum field generator we've placed, every modified asteroid station, every apparently failed defense installation will suddenly reveal its true purpose. Instead of shields, they're actually quantum entanglement transmitters. Park's voice grew more excited as he explained. The moment we activate the network, every Nexary ship will find itself quantum entangled with our systems. Their own technology will think it's receiving commands from their home fleet. And what commands will it think it's receiving? That their fleet has been infiltrated by enemies. That every other ship in their formation is actually a hostile force. Their defensive systems will activate automatically, targeting their own vessels. The human factor. Dr. Cross's voice came through the speakers again. Ghost Leader, we're detecting movement in the outer system. Long-range sensors show the Nexary main fleet has entered the solar system. ETA to Earth orbit, 16 hours. Morgan felt her pulse quicken. All stations, this is Ghost Leader. We are now in final phase. All personnel to battle stations. Remember, we get one shot at this. Park looked up from his displays. Riley, there's something else. The quantum calculations show that once we trigger the cascade, there's no going back. If this doesn't work, we won't get a second chance. Then we better make sure it works, Morgan replied. The final preparations. As the hours ticked by, the asteroid belt became a hive of activity. Engineers made final adjustments to quantum field generators. Technicians ran diagnostic checks on entanglement transmitters. Scientists monitored the approaching alien fleet with instruments that would have been science fiction just days before. Park's team had transformed the abandoned mining station into a masterpiece of human ingenuity. Every system had been carefully designed to look like a failure while actually being a component in the most sophisticated trap ever conceived. Incoming transmission from the Nexary fleet, the communications officer announced. They're broadcasting on all human frequencies. The main screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Kethvar once again. But this time, he was flanked by military officers whose crystalline armor gleamed with authority. Humans of Earth, the ambassador began, your time has expired. Our main fleet has arrived to witness your surrender. Any resistance will be met with immediate and total annihilation. The bluff. Morgan stepped forward, activating the station's external cameras. This is Captain Riley Morgan of the Earth Defense Force. We refuse your terms. Humanity will never surrender to alien invaders. The Nexary officers exchanged what might have been amused glances. Captain Morgan, our sensors detect your pathetic attempts at defense. Your quantum shields are primitive and ineffective. Your fleet is outnumbered 200 to 1. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to serve the Empire with dignity. Morgan's voice remained steady despite the fear in her heart. You want Earth? Come and take it. The transmission ended abruptly. Park looked at his displays, watching as the massive alien fleet began moving into attack formation. They're taking the bait. All ships moving to surround Earth, just like we predicted. The countdown. Time to activation? Morgan asked. 4 hours. We need to wait until they're all in position. The quantum cascade has to hit their entire fleet simultaneously, or the ones outside the effect radius will escape and call for reinforcements. Morgan stared out at the stars, knowing that in just a few hours, humanity would either win the greatest victory in its history or suffer the most devastating defeat. The trap was set, the bait was taken, and the Nexary were walking straight into the web humanity had woven for them. All stations, prepare for quantum cascade initiation, she announced. In 4 hours, we show these aliens what happens when you threaten the human race. The asteroid belt hummed with energy as the final countdown began. The Nexari take the bait. The fleet assembles. Fleet Commander Zorth AK stood on the bridge of the Nexari flagship Dominator, his 4 arms clasped behind his back as he surveyed the tactical display. 200 of the Empire's finest warships had arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the small blue planet, their combined firepower capable of turning entire star systems into cosmic dust. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "all ships have achieved optimal intimidation formation. The humans can see our fleet with their primitive optical telescopes." Zorth AK's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Excellent. Let them gaze upon their doom. Are our sensors detecting any significant military response?" "Negative, sir. Their fleet consists of approximately 40 vessels, all using chemical propulsion and primitive energy weapons. Our shields could withstand their entire combined firepower for several rotations." The deception continues. Admiral Patricia Stone watched the alien fleet deployment from her command ship Defiance, maintaining her role in the carefully orchestrated deception. Her fleet looked appropriately desperate, arranged in a defensive formation that any military strategist would recognize as hopeless. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving quantum resonance confirmations from all asteroid installations. The trap is fully operational." Stone nodded grimly. "And the Nexari? They're exactly where we need them. Their formation is perfect for the quantum cascade. Dr. Cross confirms all Earth-based nodes are synchronized and ready." Through her viewscreen, Stone could see the massive alien ships surrounding Earth like predators circling wounded prey. In 30 minutes, those same ships would discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology, it was its ability to turn enemy advantages into weapons. The final ultimatum. Commander Zorth AK activated the fleet-wide communication system. "Attention human vessels. This is your final opportunity to surrender. Stand down your defenses and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in the immediate destruction of your major population centers." Admiral Stone's response came through with perfectly calculated desperation. "Nexari Fleet, this is Admiral Stone of the Earth Defense Force. We need time to coordinate the surrender. Our governments are in chaos." "You have 10 minutes, Zorth AK replied coldly. "After that, we begin demonstration bombardments." The fleet commander turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the orbital cannons. Target the largest human city. We'll show them what happens to species that defy the Empire." The quantum cascade begins. Deep in the Cheyenne Mountain facility, Dr. Cross watched the final seconds tick away on his countdown timer. Around him, the most brilliant minds in human history held their breath as decades of theoretical physics prepared to become devastating reality. "All stations, this is command," Cross announced. "Quantum cascade initiation in 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. Captain Morgan, floating in the asteroid belt, gripped her command chair. "All Phoenix installations, prepare for activation on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute." Across the solar system, humanity's trap sprang shut. The entanglement activates. The effect was invisible to the naked eye, but the results were immediate and catastrophic for the Nexari fleet. Every quantum field generator humanity had placed suddenly synchronized, creating a massive entanglement web that reached out to encompass the alien formation. On the bridge of the Dominator, alarm klaxons began wailing. "Commander," the tactical officer shouted, "massive quantum distortion detected. Our navigation systems are reporting impossible readings." Zorth AK's 4 eyes widened as his displays showed data that defied everything he understood about physics. "What kind of distortion?" "Sir, our quantum communication network is being flooded with conflicting signals." Every ship in the fleet is showing as both friendly and hostile simultaneously. The trap springs. What the Nexari didn't understand was that their own technology had become their enemy. The quantum entanglement that allowed instantaneous communication across their empire now linked every ship in their fleet to humanity's artificial intelligence network. Dr. Cross watched his displays with grim satisfaction as the cascade effect spread through the alien formation. It's working. Their own systems are interpreting the quantum interference as enemy infiltration protocols. On ship after ship, Nexari defensive systems activated automatically. Friend or foe identification systems, confused by the quantum static, began categorizing other Empire vessels as hostile forces. Chaos in the fleet. Commander, the weapons officer on the Dominator called out in panic, "Our defensive grid is activating. It's targeting the Subjugator and the Annihilator." Zorth AK rushed to the tactical station, his military training warring with disbelief. "That's impossible. Run a full diagnostic on all systems." "Sir, diagnostics show all systems functioning normally. But the quantum network is reporting that 60% of our fleet consists of enemy vessels disguised as Imperial ships." Across the formation, similar scenes played out on dozens of bridges. The Nexari's own sophisticated AI systems, designed to protect against infiltration and deception, were now convinced that their own fleet had been compromised. The human masterstroke. Captain Morgan monitored the chaos from her asteroid station, watching as the alien fleet began to tear itself apart. "Lucas, are you seeing this?" Engineer Park's voice came through with barely contained excitement. "It's beautiful, Riley. Their own paranoia protocols are working against them. The quantum cascade is making their computers think they're under attack by shapeshifters." The brilliance of the human plan became clear as the cascade effect intensified. The Nexari Empire's greatest strength, their interconnected quantum network, had become their greatest weakness. The fleet turns on itself. Emergency protocols activated, came the announcement across Nexari frequencies. All ships switch to independent operation. The network has been compromised. But it was too late. The quantum entanglement web was now self-sustaining, fed by the aliens' own technology. Every attempt to break free only strengthened the effect. Admiral Stone watched through her viewscreen as the massive alien ships began firing on each other. Energy beams that could crack planets were now being turned against the vessels that had launched them. "My God," her tactical officer whispered. "They're destroying their own fleet." The Dominator's last stand. Commander Zorth AK made one final desperate attempt to regain control. "All ships, this is the Dominator. Ignore all network commands. Manual targeting only." But the damage was done. The quantum cascade had infected every system in the fleet. Even manual controls were interpreting their own crew members as potential threats. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 30 ships. They're asking for permission to destroy the vessels they believe are enemy infiltrators." Zorth AK's mandibles clicked in frustration and growing fear. "Those are our own ships. Can't they see the Imperial identification codes? The quantum interference is scrambling all recognition protocols, sir. Every ship looks like an enemy to every other ship." The tide turns. From her command ship, Admiral Stone opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Commander Zorth AK, this is Admiral Stone. Your fleet is destroying itself. Stand down your weapons and we'll cease the quantum cascade." The alien commander's response was filled with barely controlled rage. "What have you done? This is impossible. Your species lacks the technology for quantum manipulation." "We didn't have it until you gave it to us," Stone replied calmly. "Your ultimatum transmission contained everything we needed to understand your network. You handed us the keys to your own kingdom." The realization. As the truth sank in, Zorth AK felt something no Nexari commander had experienced in over 1,000 years: defeat at the hands of a supposedly primitive species. You used our own technology against us," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "We used your arrogance against you," Stone corrected. "You assumed we were too primitive to understand quantum mechanics. You were wrong." Around Earth, the once mighty Nexari fleet continued its self-destruction, their own defensive systems turned into weapons of mutual annihilation. Dr. Cross's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral, we're detecting massive cascade failures throughout their fleet. Their quantum network is completely compromised. They're dead in the water." The victory. Captain Morgan watched the last of the alien ship's weapons go silent, their crews finally managing to shut down systems that had been trying to kill them for the past hour. "Ghost leader to all stations," she announced. "The trap has worked. The Nexari fleet is neutralized." The greatest armada in galactic history had been defeated not by superior firepower, but by humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to turn an enemy's strength against itself. As the alien ships drifted powerless in Earth's orbit, humanity had won its first victory in what would become known as the Quantum War.